The phrase "it's Florida" or "because it's Florida" needs to be fired into the sun. Like, stop it. Stop with the arrogance. It's a very nice place.
It doesn't matter that you're the fourth best public university. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Stop with the arrogance. Do the things that Alabama and Georgia do to be good at football. They work hard at it. They don't just fall ass backward into it. They had problems too. Remember when Nick Saban got hired at Alabama? It was like, why would anybody take this job? You're doomed to fail. There's too much pressure. All of this sound very familiar.
Another Dooley Noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point.
Okay, welcome into another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios here at the Dooley Dome in the Ponderosa. We are here, as we are every Thursday, at home. We got a great guest for you today, Andy Staples from On3. You know him very well. He's been doing this for a long time, knows college football probably as well as anybody. Maybe I can get some answers from him. And of course, he played at Florida, so he follows Florida and lives in Gainesville, so he knows the Gators, that's for sure. Although I will say this, I'm not sure I know the Gators anymore. Not only because I don't go to press conferences, well, I don't have to, but because I know it's something I have not recognized in a long time. Florida football doesn't look that what's supposed to look like that. Now, there have been times when it's looked like that, but anyway, we'll get to that in just a minute. So Andy is on Thursday, or Andy is today. Coach Spurrier will be on Monday. Look forward to seeing what he's got to say after that trip to Starkville. And then the following Thursday, Tom Luganville, you know him well, really does a good job. Love talking to him, former player, and of course, analyst for ESPN. And I think the following Thursday, I think Danny Warfel may be coming on then. I know he's coming on at some point, but we'll find out. So we're trying to line up the guests in advance because we know, especially this time of year during football season, it's a time to strike, man. Because look, as bad as it's going here, it's still football season, and you're still paying attention. And we all know that, and we love it. We love that you are. Let's get to our Gainesville Quarterback Club starting five. And the Gainesville Quarterback Club, of course, they had Caleb Sturgis Tuesday was tremendous. I thought he was really great as a speaker. This week it's no quarterback club because of the open day, and they're going out. Obviously, there's no game next week, so there's no club. And then I think Dan Mullins. Anyway, I'll give you the exact Monday. I'll give you exactly who has come to speak. They've got great speakers lined up, and I think Jimbo may actually be coming back now that he can't. And then I also heard that Dan Mullen may not be there because that's right, because they signed him all Thursday games, and he has to be there early. And anyway, whatever. Okay. I'm glad I don't get to introduce him, but anyway. All right, so the Gainesville Quarterback Club, though, is a great place to be. And the fellowship was incredible there. Just some beautiful people talking about great things. And like I said, Caleb was great. So you can join just by joining or giving a call to the Gainesville Quarterback Club or GainesvilleQuarterbackClub.org. You can see who all the speakers are coming up. And they do a lot of great things in this community as well. So let's get to the game get to the starting five. And the number one thing is what Florida fans are feeling. And it's funny because I usually don't look at comments anymore because I've gotten to the point in my life where I don't need people to tell me behind the barricade of a Twitter tweet or response or look, I want to hear comments. I want to hear what people are saying. I don't really want to expose myself to it too much. But somebody had said that our podcast last week didn't get up on YouTube, so I went and looked, and it was up. It might not have gotten up right away. I don't know what happened. Somebody was saying something, but it's up there. I watched a little bit of it. And then I went and read all the comments, and the comments were saying that I was too much of a homer. I'm like, look, I don't want the coach fired today. I want him fired at the end of the year, unless something miraculous happens, unless they do things that I haven't seen. But that's the thing. Everybody is kind of in this mode of fire everybody. Fire everybody that's ever lived. Fire me, for example. Maybe I should be fired. And that's part of the stages of being a fan, and I wish I had Larry Miller's or somebody else's. Larry Miller did this hilarious thing about the stages of being drunk, and it's like first stage, had 2 beers, I can stay up a little later, and by the time you get it's 3 a.m. and Mr. Tequila's walked in, and next thing you know, you're anyway. It's a really good bit. You ought to watch it if you get a chance. But there are stages, and I think that the anger stage is still there. It doesn't leave. The sadness stage is the one that is kind of overwhelming everybody. My wife said to me, but we were driving somewhere before game time, and I'm trying to remember where, but yeah. And she said, I never felt this unconfident. Is that a word? And I go, no, I don't think it's a word, but I know where you're going with this. Or felt less confident about a Florida game as it's getting ready to be played. I said, yeah, even Georgia. I've never felt like this. Like, I have no confidence in this coaching staff and what they're going to do. So you've got that, and there's a lot of people going through the despair of that, the sadness of it, the feeling humiliated of it, because the thing that I'm not even sure coaches and players really get about Gator fans, and any fans, is that they take it personal. When you play like crap and you hire a coach that keeps saying the same things and it's screwed up, and he does the same things over and over again, it's bad, and you get beat by Miami, and you get beat by an SEC team, and you get beat down, you're sad and you're embarrassed. And you are going to hear it from your friends, and you know that, and that makes you mad again. Now you're back to mad. And these are all the emotions Gator fans are going through. None of them is joy. None of them. It's not going well right now. We all know that. Which brings me to number 2 on our Gainesville Quarterback Club starting 5, and that is, look, guys, and I'm just going to say this. I said this to the quarterback club down in Ocala last night. I want you just to think about this for a minute. Just think about it. That's all I'm saying. You can think about it for a minute and go, no, Dooley's wrong. I'm going to let it go. But what have we complained the most about with Billy Napier? Keeps doing the same things over and over again. Same problems, same penalties, same screw-ups, same offense, same going for 3rd and 10 and run the ball, same running it on first down every time, same defense, same lack of line of scrimmages. It's literally the same thing. And that's what gets people mad. It was supposed to be different. It's not different. It's the same. I don't want it to be the same. And I'm right there with all of you on this, okay? But let me just say this and think about it for just a minute. If you let go of Billy Napier, aren't you doing the same thing over and over again? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and thinking you're going to get the same results. Aren't you doing the same thing over and over again? Fired Muschamp in less than 4, McElwain in less than 3, Mullen in less than 4. This guy would be less than 3. That's the same thing over and over again. Now, I am not saying that you shouldn't get rid of your coach. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that at least stop and think about what it's going to mean, what it's going to mean to the program. The program's going to take another step back. Eventually, they're going to take so many steps back, they're going to be in the river. They're going to fall off a cliff. They can't keep taking steps back. And then you start thinking about it, and you're going like, man, I wish McElwain was still here. No, and of course, nobody says that out loud, but sometimes you think it. McElwain had that credit card issue, which really hurt him. I mean, Jordan Scarlett was going to be their feature back, and that's not his fault. It's Jordan Scarlett's fault, but it wasn't McElwain's fault. He lost his quarterback, who got popped for a steroid of some kind or some kind of illegal substance, 6 games into an undefeated season. McElwain, if he just could have been a better person, and when I say better person, maybe better employee would be a better way of putting it, because I liked him as a person. We got along great. If he could have been a better employee and just sat there and listened to people when they talked and had respect for other head coaches who'd won national championships and hired a better strength. There's a lot of things he could have done. If I could have sat him down as he was starting his venture, I would have said, here's what you need to know, buddy. Here's what you need to know. And you can take this and throw it out. But if you don't, you're going to get fired. I feel the same way about Muschamp. What if Muschamp had figured out offense? What if he had come in here with that attitude? Caleb talked a little bit about that over the weekend because he played for, of course, Urban and Muschamp. But if he had come in here and said, we're going to be good on offense, that's the main goal I have. But no, he came in here and says, not only are we going to be good on defense, I'm going to protect my defense. If it's 3rd and 7, I'm not throwing it deep. I'm not throwing a 10-yard pass. I want to make sure we get to punt it out of here. And I love Will to death. I can't tell you how much I like that guy. But he just couldn't figure it out on offense. And so they lost games in unusual ways. And certainly the South Carolina game was the last one, and that was the end for him. If Dan Mullen had just decided, hey, in this time, I'm really going to go headstrong into recruiting. I am going to just kill this. I know I'm the smartest guy in the room, but better players think how much of an advantage that will give me. If he just said that and done that, instead of saying, I'm the smartest guy in the room. That's how you want to know how Florida got into this mess with 3 totally different coaches with totally different personalities and totally different strengths and totally different flaws. And the flaws were overwhelming and they were too much. Look, when Muschamp got fired, everybody wanted him fired, including I had to say it. I love the guy. I hate to say it. When McElwain got fired, we understood why. We understood all the stuff that was going on, constantly criticizing the administration. Just doing things the wrong way. When Mullen got fired, it wasn't like anybody said, how can you fire him? There might have been some disagreement, just like when Will got fired. There was a lot of people that were mad about that because they loved Will. I'm going on and on about this, but you get what I'm saying. This is how you get into this rut. And firing Napier isn't going to make things better, right? But maybe it will. And that carrot is what's out there. If we get rid of our coach and all these other coaches and all these people and all this stuff, and we still have this great foundation of players, and obviously everything is there for them, everything they could possibly need, you bring in a coach who is an SOB. I think that's what Florida needs more than anything. It's just an SOB to come in there and straighten this crap out. Don't let them wear the uni. And we talked about this, I think, last week. Don't let them practice in Gator gear. Don't give them brand new Air Jordans at the end of the year. You say, hey, you only getting those Air Jordans if you play. We're changing the rules. New coach comes in here and does it. I don't know, man. Look, I've gone a long time on this rant, and my butt's hurting. So I'll probably cut it off now. But the only point of this segment here, this number 2 on our Gainesville Quarterback Club starting 5, is that you can't be mad at the way they're doing it again and getting nothing out of it if you want to do it again. Sometimes you just have to keep doing things again till you get it right. And maybe that's what they do. And we'll see if that happens. So no emails, but you can still do it. All right, number 3 on our Gainesville Quarterback Club starting 5. I don't see a path that leads to much, but there is no path that leads to Billy Napier staying on at Florida without a win Saturday. There's no way he gets that. Now, I'm not saying they're gonna pull a zook on him and fire him during the bye week, and after he loses to Mississippi State, which lost to Toledo badly last week. Toledo's a good team. Toledo probably beat Florida. But the funny thing is, all right, so you got a team that's got problems at the line of scrimmage. They're getting killed at the line of scrimmage. They still are doing some of the dumb things they've done before. They can't get off to fast starts. People want their coach fired. This isn't Florida I'm talking about, people. This is Mississippi State. That's the same thing they're dealing with. Now, he's in his first year, Jeff Levy. But they're 15th in defense and 12th in offense. Well, they're 15th in defense, but you know who's 16th, don't you? Yeah, you sure do. and look, I didn't even have to. You didn't even have to look it up to know who's 16th in defense. It's Florida. We'll see what happens, though. Of course, Trey Wilson out again. That's not good. Asa Turner's out again. That's not good. But that's what did I say before the season? You find out how good your depth is when you start having injuries. That's when you find out. You don't know. You think you have good depth, and then all of a sudden you get a couple of key guys hurt, and the guys behind them really aren't. I don't know. We'll see how that all works out. But look, bottom line is Florida's favored to win this game by 5.5, 6, no matter depending on where you look at it. And they need a win. They got to get this win. They just have to. And look, I don't know what I would do if they didn't. I don't know what I would do. Would I fire everybody? I've heard this rumor that Scott Strickland's going to be okay, but he's not going to be the guy who selects the next coach because Scott does a good job with a lot of other things. And he did a tremendous job. He's very good at raising money for Florida. I can tell you that much. So just keep him away from football NIL and football hires, and he'll be fine. So we'll see what happens going forward. But they got to beat Mississippi State. They just do. And this was a game this was why you could see a path to 9 wins because, like I told people, I think they'll be fine against Miami. I didn't know how good Miami was. Miami's better than I thought. And I probably was looking through orange and blue glasses when I was saying I was drinking that Jonestown Kool-Aid because – and then you looked at, well, they'll beat them. They'll beat in the third game, they're playing A&M. They got a new coach. Didn't matter. Fourth game, you go to Mississippi State. Mississippi State's got a new coach. They're rebuilding. They've had to change everything because it was really a screw up last year with Zach Arnett in there. May not matter. And then you get UCF, who's 3-0, who's playing really well. In fact, I meant to mention that in that Mayhem moment we showed last week. I didn't realize that game was from last year. UCF did lose that game. They won this year against TCU by 1. So I want to make sure I cleared that up because it was brought to my attention, but I did know it. I knew it later after the podcast. All right, let's get to number 4 in our Gainesville Quarterback Club starting 5. And of course, Gainesville Quarterback Club has their big golf tournament coming up too. If you want to play in that, get involved in that. And also they're looking for sponsors for that as well. The good thing about Saturday is whatever you want to do in the evening or afternoon or night, you're free to do because the game is at noon and it'll be over soon. It's 11 out there. And of course, Spurrier used to always tell his players, don't reset your watch. They're playing 11, you're playing at 12, which is funny and yet irrelevant. But that's Steve. He's good at doing stuff like that. So anyway, it is weird how college football, the new prime time is noon. And there's a lot of really good games at noon this week, and it seems like it's that week every day. And the coaches want this, but the main thing is they want to whet your appetite with great games, and whatever they give you the rest of the way, you're already in. I guess that's my theory. I don't know really why noon is taken over. There's still usually like 1 or 2 good games. I know the best game on Saturday is a 7:30 game, and we'll get to those swamp games of the week in just a little bit. But there's not a whole lot else out there. There's games, but nothing special. But usually there's like 3 really good Power 5 games on the noon kickoff, and it's become that's the new power right there. It's a new prime time, I should say. Number 5 on our Gainesville Quarterback Club starting 5. I did want to mention this. Starkville has not been very, very good to anybody, least of all to Ron Zook, who got fired after their loss there. I'll never forget that game because we're riding home in a storm, and we got to ride to Columbus, and I'm in a walking boot because I've broken my ankle playing basketball. And as I'm getting out, I realize the bottom of my walking boot has been just disintegrated by the rain. And it just was a miserable day, just a miserable day. And there've been a lot of miserable days out there. You go back to the Zook getting fired the day after, and I remember Jeremy on the phone with Bernie Matchin on the sideline. they're storming the field. Spurrier twice going out there and getting beat. One time, I think it was 92. It might have been 299. Might have been 99. Might have been 92 though. I think it was 92. Yeah. Yeah. They beat Mississippi State beat the crap out of them. Now that was the Thursday night game. Beat the crap out of them. And Jackie Sherrill found Spurrier on the bus. He goes, "All right, coach, sorry about that, but we'll see you in Atlanta." And Spurrier's like, "Well, yeah, we got a lot of games to play, and I don't think we're going to Atlanta right now, to be honest with you." They were 1-2, I think. And of course, they did go to Atlanta, and Jackie Sherrill did not. So Spurrier went 0-2 out there. One game is one of his trainers got hit in the head, and they gave him the game ball afterwards. Tebow played out there in the game where they played so joylessly that people kept coming up to me and asking what was wrong. They were undefeated. They won that game by 10, but Tebow threw 2 pick sixes in that game too. And everybody was mad. The locker room had a fight at halftime. You've seen that now on Swamp Kings. And everybody was saying, why is this team so miserable? They're undefeated. And it was hard for me to answer the question. So you had that go on out there. They're 11-11 in Starkville, which being 500 on the road is pretty good. But I don't know, against Mississippi State's always been like this, never they get there. Mullen got them to number 1, and then quickly it went down. So anyway, they're 11-11 against them, and we'll see how that game goes. Yeah, okay, that's all I've got for you there. All right, I've given you plenty on the opening segment, brought to you by the Gainesville Quarterback Club. We will take a break. When we come back, Andy Staples from On3 will join us. Can't wait to talk to him about college football and especially about his alma mater, Florida Gators. We'll be back with more on another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios.
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the Hippie Attorney. And although times have changed, 2 things haven't: our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured,
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
and our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Bite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Gator fans, football season is here. What's better than seeing the Gators back on the field? Easy. Seeing amazing speakers and fellow Gator fans weekly at the Gainesville Quarterback Club. Held every Tuesday night of a home game at the Best Western Gateway Grand. Enjoy happy hour, great food, valuable insights from yours truly and Andy Staples, plus notable speakers throughout the season. As the oldest Gator booster club in the world, Gainesville Quarterback Club gives you access to elite speakers like coaches, NCAA football insiders, Gator greats, and more. Share your passion for Gator football with hundreds of other members at weekly in-season meetings, home tailgates, and special events throughout the year. Join the Gainesville Quarterback Club today. Email the club at membership@quarterbackclub.org or visit thequarterbackclub.org. Or better yet, just give me a call and I'll get you to the right people. Okay, welcome back to another newly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. It's great to bring on my guest today. Always love talking to him from On3 Sports, Andy Staples. Of course, played here, went to school here, lives here, eats here. What have you eaten good lately?
I've been on the road, Pat. So I was in Michigan, Tennessee. I was in Knoxville, Nashville, wound up in Champaign, Illinois for a night, then Madison, Wisconsin. So I had a nice brat in Madison that was spectacular. Had an incredible meal in Nashville last week that I wound up having little grass-fed aged ribeye. So, but yeah, I need to. Well, I tell you, got to shout out my folks near me. The day before I left, lunch at Blue Highway, perfect as always.
Yeah.
Those people never miss, not
No.
once.
Absolutely. I was in Champaign one time. I had to go there because I was covering volleyball Final Four. They got beat in the first round, so I had nothing to do. I couldn't fly out, so I drove to Champaign, covered a women's basketball game. Okay, I don't know. I can't explain it. I didn't think much of it. I didn't catch it on a good day, maybe.
My podcast co-host Ari Wasserman was with me, and he covered Ohio State for 10 years, so he had a lot more Champaign experience than I did. And he's like, I've never seen the sun in this town, not once. And it was funny because it was kind of cloudy and gloomy. We were there for probably 16 hours. It was cloudy and gloomy the entire time. And then we started driving north to get to Madison. So you start, you get up into the state, like you get toward the Chicago suburbs a little bit, and the sun comes out.
Yeah.
I was like, what is it? What is this weather pattern? Like, I don't understand.
Gary Shelton had the greatest line about it. He said, the late Gary Shelton, he said that's Champaign is what they opened when they left it. So that's why they named it Champaign. All right, let's talk about people not popping champagne. People that live in cities like, Gainesville, Tallahassee.
If you're in a rural Central Florida basement, yeah, you're not popping champagne.
No, it's really it's sadder what's going on over here than it is over there, because at least they have last year to live on, but they're also probably madder because now they got screwed in their 1 year they could do it, and now they're terrible again. Yeah,
it's such a weird deal. And talking to Norvell in the offseason, like, I never got the sense that he was sandbagging, that he thought this wasn't going to be a good team. And like, you talk to some of the NFL scouts, and they're like, no, their players are good. Like, it's not the same when you talk about Florida.
Right.
Well, you talk to these people about Florida, and they're like, I don't know on the line of scrimmage if Florida has the talent.
Right.
Like, at Florida State, there are guys that like NFL scouts feel are individually talented, but they're really not playing very well together. And then the quarterback situation there is just a mess.
Yeah, but isn't that the whole problem with the portal? You're going to live by it and die by it. I mean, I know that's a cliche, but I don't know that there's ever been a more appropriate cliche than you live by the portal and die by it.
Well, exactly. And you look at the teams that keep competing for the national championship most years, they're still, for the most part, stocking themselves through the high school ranks, and especially stocking the big guys through the high school ranks. And Ohio State, we talk about all they got through the transfer portal. They only took 9 transfers this year. It's just that one of those transfers is the best safety in America, Caleb Downs. Yeah. They did need help at center, so they took Seth McLaughlin. Like, Michigan last year took a center, Drake Nugent, a left tackle, Ladarius Henderson, an edge rusher, Josiah Stewart. Like, those were the portal additions that made the biggest impact. And they were positions of need, but they didn't need anything else.
Right. Well, the thing that's interesting to me is this is almost like a class that needs to be taught to coaches how to handle the portal, because how to identify whether a player is going to blend in with, I mean, I know this is what they talk about, but I don't know if they really do. How is he going to blend in with your team? Is he going to play hard? Is he going to get his money and be like an LIV guy and say, I don't have to work anymore? How is this all going to do? And we see it all over the place. Sometimes it works brilliantly, and sometimes it just doesn't work.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I thought Florida State had done a really good job taking guys out of the portal that fit what they did. But it might have been they just had a strong enough culture that it didn't matter who you put in there. They were just going to assimilate because everybody else is already on the right page. And so Jordan Travis, we gave him a lot of credit after he got hurt. We said, wow, he made them a lot better on the field. How much better did he make them in the locker room? And some of those other guys, some of those other older guys that were
exactly right,
were there.
Yeah, and I don't think the guy that's there now, I'm not saying he's not a good locker room guy, but I just know he's not a good quarterback, and I've known that for 4 years, and nobody needs to explain it to me. So that was the one thing I think anybody who was rooting against FSU was hoping, is that DJ would DJ and it'd be fine.
Yeah, But the thing is, I don't know. I watched every
He
game.
does have a
DJ
lot of
played.
drop passes, though.
Yeah, well, and it's not even that. I watched every game he played at Clemson. I watched most of the games he played at Oregon State. He didn't look like this moving around the pocket. He was much more mobile before.
Mhm.
So I don't know if he's hurt or something's changed in terms of him physically, but he just doesn't move very well in the pocket, and he's just getting battered. And because a lot of those throws, some of them are bad, but some of them are being affected because he's getting pressured and he can't seem to move around.
Yeah, exactly. Here's a point I made earlier in the show, Andy, and see if you'd agree with this. One thing that people are so upset with Billy Napier is doing the same things over and over again, getting the same results. That's the definition of insanity. If Florida fires him, aren't they doing the same thing over and over again, and ending up in the same hole that they've been in for a decade?
No, not if they hire the right coach.
Well, that's the key.
I mean, what's the
They got to
history
swing
of
for the
Florida?
fence, don't they?
What's the history of Florida football, Pat?
Two
There have
guys.
been two right coaches and everybody else was wrong.
Yeah,
Ray Graves was probably right. So it's three.
yeah,
Three
Yeah,
right
Ray
coaches.
Graves, Ray Graves will slip in there. Yeah,
Yeah. So Steve Spurrier, Urban Meyer, and Ray Graves.
Yeah.
Three right coaches, and I'm bad at math, but 118 years.
that's not
They've
good.
played football at Florida for 118 years, and they've only hired the right coach 3 times.
That's not a good number. And the thing is, I think they've hired some right coaches in this last cycle, but each one of them had a major personality flaw that they couldn't get over.
Well, like Mullen was a good coach. Like
Yeah, very good
there's
coach.
no equivocating. There's no personality. Like from 2018 to 2020, that version of Dan Mullen was an excellent coach.
Absolutely.
There is no bones about it. But the guy who came back after 2020 was not the same guy. And so I know a lot of people from the outside are like, well, you shouldn't have fired Dan Mullen. No. I mean, it would have been really bad if they kept him. Unless the old guy had somehow reemerged. But I don't know if that was going to happen. So they had to make a change. They just picked the wrong guy. Now, the problem is they made a change right as everything was changing. So they hired Billy Napier, whose roster building strategy probably would be effective in 2008, but is incredibly ineffective in 2024. Meanwhile, they didn't, part of the problem with Florida is an institutional arrogance. Like this idea that Miami took shortcuts because they paid more money for players. They didn't take shortcuts. That's allowed.
Yeah.
Do the things that are allowed as much as you can. And I've said this on a couple other shows, but I think with this audience, they'll understand more what I mean because this is an audience that follows Florida a lot. The phrase "it's Florida" or "because it's Florida" needs to be fired into the sun. Like, stop it. Stop with the arrogance. It's a very nice place.
It
There's a
doesn't
reason I
matter
live
that
here.
you're the 4th best
Yeah.
public university. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Stop with the arrogance. Do the things that Alabama and Georgia do to be good at football. They work hard at it. They don't just fall ass backward into it. They had problems too. Remember when Nick Saban got hired at Alabama? It was like, why would anybody take this job? You're doomed to fail. There's too much pressure. All of this sound very familiar, Pat?
I know. Hey, do you have a name? Do you have one guy or maybe 2 guys that you would you think could succeed here if they walked in the door?
So if we're not talking about the Lane and Eli Drinkwitz that are going to be the guys that they at least target initially.
They're going to be the first 2 calls, I would think.
Yeah. Glenn Schumann, DC at Georgia. If you're looking at how things, how people came up, very similar career path to Kirby Smart, very similar career path to Dan Lanning. Seems to understand how things work. Now, we don't know his personality all that well, and that's part of working for Nick Saban and Kirby Smart for your whole career. You don't get to do a lot of interviews. You don't really get to show off. But I do think that's one, if you ask people who played for him, they're like, that dude's a killer. Like he's potentially very good. And the one I know they won't hire, because other schools have had the same issues in Florida, coming off Billy Napier is not going to do this. But I think Jamie Chadwell will win huge when he finally gets a power conference job. The reason he's never gotten one is neither he nor his assistants have worked at the power conference level. Like, he wasn't the receivers coach at South Carolina, or he wasn't, the quarterbacks coach at Auburn. Jamie Chadwell was the head coach in his 20s at North Greenville in Division II, and he won there. And then he went to Charleston Southern in the FCS, and he won bigger there. And then he went to Coastal Carolina and won bigger there, and now he's winning bigger at Liberty. So everywhere he's gone, he's gotten even better. So he's gone up in competition and gotten better. Now, Coastal Liberty is not better competition because the Conference USA is pretty terrible compared to the Sun Belt. But he took that because he wanted to be at the school with the most money in the league instead of the one with the least for once. But I'm telling you right now, like, when Mac retires and North Carolina hires him, he's going to kill people. Like, it's going to happen. I don't think Florida will go for him. I understand, like, after the Billy Napier thing, they're probably saying that no group of 5.
Yeah, I wanted him before when they were hired Napier. That was a guy I was lobbying for. So at least great minds think alike. I'm glad to hear that. All right, it's time to play Yes, No, Where, Maybe with Andy Staples from On3 Sports. And of course, it's sponsored by Big Mills Cheesesteak, as is the Zoom line. Big Mills Cheesesteak, street dining done the right way. And our producer, Zach, went in there and asked for free fries because he listened to the podcast and got free fries, didn't you, Zach?
I did, and they were as advertised. They were the most amazing. It's the most amazing cheesesteak I've had in a while.
Wow. So there you go. So you need to head over there.
Pat, I think I have to go over there in the next couple of days over that way. So
yeah.
I won't be on that part of 13th Street. So
you should
see if I get my free fries.
Yeah, you should say, hey, not only did I listen to it, I was on it. Maybe they won't give you free fries then. I don't know. All right, let's play Yes, No, Where, Maybe with Andy Staples. Number 1, eventually in his lifetime, Arch Manning will win a Heisman Trophy.
Ooh. Maybe?
That's kind of where I am.
I don't think it's a Manning curse thing. I just think he may only have 1 year as the starter at Texas. Because if he's really good, he may be a 3 and out, 3 and done type player. So we may only see 1 full year of Arch Manning as the starter. So that would limit the opportunities, whereas Peyton and Eli had longer opportunities to get in the mix.
But you only have to have 1 good year,
You do, and I tell you what, you talk about living by the portal and dying by the portal. They are great at when they have a need in the skill positions, they just go fill it.
Yeah, absolutely. They do a great job of it. Let's go to number 2 on Yes, No, Where, Maybe, and that is this. FSU will be in the ACC in 2026.
Yes, definitely.
Think it'll be done by then, or do you think they'll?
Well, if you look at the what's being floated now, and it's unclear where it's coming from, whether it's coming from Florida State and Clemson or the ACC, there's this compromise plan that would give Florida State and Clemson more money, but also would reduce the grant of rights, the length of it. So instead of ending in 2036, it would end in 2030, right, which coincidentally happens to be the year the new Big Ten contract starts. So I would say, will Florida State be in the ACC in 2030? Absolutely not. Will they be in the ACC in 26? Yes.
Yeah, I think they may back down a little bit too. When you're 0-3, it's kind of hard to talk about how great
the on-field part of it is a piece of it, but it's not.
Yeah.
The up and down of the actual season does not affect that as much as people think.
Yeah, but it's fun to talk about.
Definitely is.
All right. Number 3, and we asked this of somebody the other day, on Yes, No, Where, Maybe. Miami will be the only team from the state to make the college football playoff.
Maybe, and not because Miami might not make it, because UCF might win the Big 12.
They might. 3-0,
Did you see that TCU game? Like, TCU takes a big lead because they block some kicks, and then UCF powers its way back. I think UCF's actually built to win in that league because they can run the ball so well. People who think the Big 12 is like all air raid, people throwing it 60 times a game, haven't actually watched it in like 5 years. You've got to be able to run the ball in that league, and they do it pretty well. I don't know if their defense is going to be good enough when they're playing the Kansas States and the Utahs of the world, but we'll find. I mean, we're going to see them in Gainesville in a few weeks. I actually think Florida's a pretty that UCF's a really bad matchup for this Florida team. So that could be just a very disheartening day for the Gators. But that's a team that feels built to compete in that league. So the only reason I say maybe, because I think Miami probably is the best team in the ACC, but I think it's possible UCF wins the Big 12 too.
Yeah, I think so too. I think they really got a chance, and certainly that'll be an interesting game. One of the under the radar kind of games, Utah and Oklahoma State this week.
Oh, I can't wait for that. Because Ollie Gordon has not been dominant yet.
No, he hasn't, not at all.
And this is now Alan Bowman and the receivers have been great. So it could be that just the defenses have said, look, we're not going to let Ollie Gordon beat us. And Alan Bowman's, ninth year senior, more than happy to beat them. But Utah is one of those that is so they're always good up front. They always have big athletic dudes up front. You don't have to do a lot special. You may not have to put an extra guy in the box to contain Oklahoma State's run game. And if that's the case, then you're going to make it really hard for them to throw. And I think Cam Rising's playing. It looks like he is going to play. So,
do you remember when in the old days when we would laugh and somebody would have a joke and they would say, "Yeah, I was on the 9-year plan. I stayed in school 9 years. I enjoyed it so much," and you'd laugh at them and what a slouch. And then now it's like that's what everybody does. They stay 9 years and play college football.
Alan Bowman, as a freshman, started at Texas Tech for Cliff Kingsbury.
Yes, right.
Cliff Kingsbury has been the Texas Tech coach, the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals for a long time, by the way, a consultant at USC, and he is now the offensive coordinator of the Washington Commanders, and Alan Bowman is still in college.
I know. It's what the kid from Miami is a 9th-year guy, the tight end.
Yeah. And then Cam Rising, the quarterback at Utah, can actually be. He can come back next year as well.
No, come on.
That is not. He said, "I'm not coming back." He's like, "I'm going to go play in the NFL after this year."
I don't want to see any more of him. I've seen enough. I've not seen enough of him. That's the problem. I haven't seen very much of him, and he's hurt.
The last 2 times you saw a complete season from Cam Rising, Utah won the Pac-12. So you might see him win the Big 12.
I'm confused. But I will say this, Andy, as always, I'm always feel a little smarter after we have you on. I always love talking college football with you, and thanks so much for being a guest.
My pleasure, Pat.
All right, we'll be back with more of another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios right after this break.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Adams Rib Company has been a staple of Gainesville for more than a decade and a staple of the Dooley house ever since Kelsey's teeth came in. The first time I walked into Adams, I told my daughter that the green beans are always a test of a great barbecue restaurant, and they were perfect. You know about the ribs that melt in your mouth, and my favorite, the turkey plate. But be sure to go in on Fridays for Nana's Fish Nuggets. They will melt in your mouth. Adams Rib Co., a Gainesville great.
Another duly noted podcast comes to you from the Coaches Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444. Okay, welcome back to another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. Really great to have Andy on. Enjoy him as always. We also enjoy our good sponsors, and let's get to a bunch of them right now. We'll start off with our 3 things brought to you by Hesser and Kipke, a Gainesville firm here for your needs in family law or workers' compensation. Call or text Ken and Jennifer 24/7 at 339-9920. Hesser and Kipke, nearly 50 years of combined legal experience and about to celebrate their 5th anniversary in January. Hesser and Kipke, we appreciate them. They are the best. All right, let's get to number 1 on our Hesser and Kipke 3 things, and that is, much to my disgust, the Yankees clinched last night. They're in the playoffs, and the Brewers clinched their division. So 2 teams have punched their tickets. You know who else has punched their tickets? The White Sox. They punched their tickets to go nowhere. They've been eliminated. I think they're at 34 wins now. So we have 2 teams in. We're getting down to the end of it. I think there's 10 games left for most teams. So a couple more weeks of baseball, and then you get down to the playoffs, which are exciting. I'm not optimistic about the Braves even making the playoffs. They've had some really tough losses, and now they're a couple of games back of the Mets. 10 games to go. Obviously, they're not going to. The Phillies haven't clinched yet, but they could clinch over the. Well, let's put it this way: they could eliminate the Braves winning the division tonight. Braves would still be in the wild card. I think I'm right on that, or maybe I'm not. I'm wrong a lot, especially when it gets to mass. So it is getting to be that time, guys. And this is like one of the great times of the year when you get college football heating up. I mean, getting better games, which I have some thoughts on that I may get to or not. You have the President's Cup in golf, and you have the obviously the Major League Baseball playoffs. The WNBA playoffs starting another week too, if you're into that. There's all kinds of other stuff going on. So it's just a good time to be a fan and watch all these games and stuff. It's really good. Number 2 on our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. I saw somebody wrote this story, and it was a good story, but I've been thinking the same thing. The SEC has got the best quarterback. Everybody talks about this is a line of scrimmage league, and it is a line of scrimmage league. But it's also a quarterback league, and the quarterbacks here not only are good in college, they win Heisman trophies, and then they go on and have success. Some of them do, some of them don't. We all know Danny and Timmy didn't have great success in the pros, but certainly some of the others do really well, including Tua, although he's got that concussion right now. But there's certainly some great ones out there. But they just seem like they're ahead of everybody else. And now, I will say this. Being a line of scrimmage league means you have offensive linemen that can protect you, which is maybe why the quarterbacks are so good. I also think one reason the quarterbacks are so good is it's a wide receiver league. They're everywhere. Everybody's got people that can run fast, except maybe Florida. So I do think that it's true that the SEC quarterbacks are killing it. And I mean, the Heisman's coming out of the SEC. I'm totally convinced of that. Maybe I'll put that down I should have put that down for Andy's. Gosh, that would have been a great question to ask Andy on yes, no, where, or maybe. The SEC will win the Heisman. I think I asked that of somebody last year, or last month, and they said yes. But they are going to win the Heisman. It's going to be Beck, or it could be Ewers. It could be Cook. I mean, if he runs the table, I'm sorry, it could be him. And you got so many other ones that are so good. Nussmeier's a really good quarterback. I'd love to have him playing for my team. You go through everybody. Peyton Thorne's not a good quarterback, but they just have a lot of quarterbacks. Anyway, that was the point of the story, and I agree with it 100%. I'm losing track here. All right, and finally, number 3 on our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. There are 117 players on the Hall of Fame ballot. And you can whittle that down a little bit, guys. I saw some guys on there that I was like, Hall of Fame? I don't even remember. Mark Bolger is on there? Really? In a Hall of Fame voting for the NFL we're talking about. There's a couple other guys down there, and I was like, really? But the point is, 2 guys are on there that need to be in the Hall of Fame, and I hope they get in, but it gets harder and harder because there's 16 new players. Now, what are you going to do with Eli Manning? You're not going to not put him in. He won 2 Super Bowls. He's on TV all the time. Eli Manning will get in. There'll be guys that you can't ignore. They're first ballot guys. And that knocks everybody because they limit it to how many can get in. It's a weird process how they do it. I don't think it's a wrong process. When you have somebody stand up and say why a guy should be in the Hall of Fame and list his stats, you discuss it around a table of 40 very smart NFL players or former coaches, certainly current sports writers. I think it's a good way to decide. But I want to get my guys in. And that's the funny thing. I went on that diatribe last week about Emmett. And I had a lot of people respond and go, "You're dead on about Emmett." And I go, "Okay, well, I didn't get any negative feedback on that, none." I mean, I'm not happy when you pick the other team and wear a black shirt on the day you're Mr. Two Bits. It's different if you were just doing it because your son was there and they asked you to be the guest picker. That would be fine. I have no problem with that. But you're asked to be Mr. Two Bits. It's quite an honor. Anyway. I don't want to go back. As long as Emmett's up there and Lomas and Fred Taylor are up there, not up there, I look at that as a fraudulent Ring of Honor. How about that? I'll put that in your pipe and blow it out your testicles. I don't know what that means at all. All right, let's get to that. Is our Hesser and Kipke three things. And I hope Ken and Jennifer will forgive me for using the word testicles on the air. I should have said balls. All right, let's get to our Hugh, Cain, Allstate Mayhem moment.
The Gator Nation is in good hands with local Allstate agent Hugh Cain. Stop by Alachua Marketplace Plaza in Alachua and get a free quote today.
Okay, here it is. This is from Friday night. I didn't see this game. I quit watching this game. All right, we got a fumble by the quarterback, and he kicked it, and now 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 this guy's all getting a scrum. That is a mayhem moment. In fact, when I saw this, it just said, "Look at the mayhem here," and I'm like, Hugh Cain would love that. Hugh Cain Allstate would love that to be the mayhem moment for this week. There are a lot of them. There's just a lot of fumbles in college football. Anyway, all right, let's move along to our Adams Ribco Gator of the Week. And appreciate Adam. And I'm going to tell a story on myself. In fact, I was just thinking about getting Adam's ribs for Saturday. I bet you they're overwhelmed though. I may not be able to do that. I'm going to call and see if I can get them. I'm just going to get a bunch of ribs, throw them on the floor, and just wallow around it and watching football. I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to get ribs. But I do have to confess that I was watching the Florida FSU volleyball game Tuesday night. FSU went up 2-1. I flip, you do. It's commercial. It's a break. You flip around. I don't know what I found, but it was something really good. Might have been a documentary. Might have been something. Unfortunately, I got locked into it and went, oh, volleyball. Went back. They were already at Sports Center. I go, oh, they must have lost the fourth set too. So that's too bad. They're struggling. They got to get Stuckey back. Then imagine my surprise if I don't know they won. They beat FSU. That's a big win for them. They're now 7-2. And our Adams Ribco Gator of the Week is Taylor Parks, who of course has had to take over that role as a setter with Stuckey out. She had a career high 56 assists in the match, plus 10 digs. So she had a double-double. And Taylor Parks, congratulations. You are Adams Ribco Gator of the Week, and you should be very proud. And let's go, volleyball. You got some big matches coming up pretty soon. So we're going to get back to full strength, and it's going to be good. I love watching those volleyball matches. And I love going to them, but it's so much fun on TV because you can flip around from points 1 through 10 and then flip it back. Okay, now it's good. But I'm a volleyball fan. But the beginning of volleyball matches are boring to me. And again, I know you got to play them, but you got to get to the double figures. Now it's 12-11. I'm all. Okay, I'll watch it. Yeah, that's me. But that's me. I'm weird. We've already established that, I think. Okay, that is our Adams Ribco Gator of the Week. Let's get to our Leonardo's at Millhopper Quick Picks. Can't wait till tomorrow. Playing in the Stop Children's Cancer Tournament. Invited Kyle Cohen to come play from Leonardo's, and we'll have a great time. He hits it far. I got to have people who hit it far. My brother hits it far, but you don't know where it's going. Mike Martin's playing with us, who hits it okay, pretty far. I don't hit it far at all anymore. 2 artificial knees, I'm old. I can still knock it around. I'm a low 80 shooter. But and then Tim, and then Kyle can really hit it. So we're going to play in that tournament and have a great time. And we appreciate Stop Children's Cancer. Of course, that's the tournament we have is in for that charity as well. So let's get to our Leonardo's at Millhopper quick picks. 2 of them for you today, boys. You better amp it up, boys and girls. I know we do have a lot of women who do get into this. And again, all you've got to do is email me your answers at patrickdooley54@gmail.com. Very simple. Email me, and then we'll have a qualifier. And at the end of this month, we're coming up on it. We're going to pull a couple things. We know it's going to be $25 at Leonardo's, and usually I either send you a hat or a book, copy of my book, copy of Patrick Young's book, which I think I'm down to my last one. I may have to order some more from him as well. But anyway, our Leonardo's at Millhopper quick picks. Here are the 2. Florida is a 5.5 point favorite. Who you going with? It sounds like easy money to me, but I will say this. They're struggling. They're in a rebuild year. They're really having a hard time out there too. And again, you take an offense that was unique to everybody, and a coach who had a playlist like this and would just look at it and know how to call, and just brilliant guy. I miss him a lot. I really do. I miss him for a lot of reasons. He was so good to the tournament, and he's in our Hall of Fame. So anyway, and then you went to a guy that was a defensive guy and didn't really fired all these coaches, fired Steve Spurrier Jr., didn't really seem to have an idea what to do on offense. And so you fire him, and now you bring in Jeff Lebby, who's known for his offense and known for doing these things, but all the players are gone because they all got out when Leach was passed away. So it's a rebuild for them. Florida should be a 5.5 point favorite, to be honest with you. I think if Florida was playing Florida football, like the old Florida football, like the Urban years or the Spurrier years, I think Florida would be a 25 point favorite. But we'll see how they are. But anyway, that's a game. Florida minus 5.5 at Mississippi State, and then Graham Mertz. Okay, I'm just throwing this out there. Does he pass for over 200 yards? Now, if he gets it going, if he plays well, if they're throwing the ball around, you know that's going to happen. Because I think he's going to play a majority of the game. That's my gut. I think they just realized alternating's not working. Maybe, but if they don't, and that goes back to the same thing, if they alternate him again and they get beat 12-6, then you go, okay, this guy's that's just too much. Anyway, so those are your 2 picks. Florida minus 5.5 at Mississippi State. Graham Mertz over or under 200 yards. So just say Florida and over. How about that? Or Mississippi State and under. That's all you got to say. All right, where are we here now? Let's get toward this, that, and the other. I'm losing track. I get so many great sponsors and so many really cool things that we do. I love doing them. But sometimes I look at this sheet and I'm trying to find it. But this, that, and the other, it's time for that. And this, that, and the other, as you know, is brought to you by Ironwood Golf Course and by Ballyhoo Grill. Sure, there'll be a visit there this weekend, as we tend to do. And, of course, by our good friends at Dar Shakow Insurance. They do such a great job over there. All right, this part of this, that, and the other is, I don't know what happened, and I can't even explain it, really. It's weird. But I all of a sudden started really liking Alabama quarterbacks. And maybe it goes back to Greg McElroy, because I interviewed Greg McElroy one-on-one at SEC Media Days, and I went, oh, you're going to be on TV one day. You could just tell, And he was really good, really interesting, really funny. Sure enough, he's killing it on TV. And maybe that's where I started liking Alabama quarterbacks. Now, of course, you don't like anybody more than you like Florida, but you still, I liked them. I liked the way they thought, and I liked the way they were coached. And so Tula's one, obviously. I don't know that I had any great affinity for Mac Jones. But another one I really liked was a guy I voted for the Heisman Trophy, Bryce Young. I didn't get it for him, but I voted for him. One vote doesn't make you a winner. Anyway, so that's this. That is that everybody when he came out and went through the combine, I said, he's too little. He's too little. What, you can't draft him too high. Well, I don't think he's too little. And I kept saying that. I go, look, I've seen this guy get slugged around and beat up, and he's fine. He knows how to move his body. He'll be fine. Well, the other is that he did get drafted very high by the Carolina Panthers, who have no structure around him to play good football. And maybe he is too little, and maybe he's not as good as I thought he was. And I'm willing to say that. Now benched. He's sitting on the bench for this next game, and who knows how long. They're even talking about trading him. So I was wrong about him. I thought he would be okay, but I, still like him. It's an Alabama quarterback. Maybe I like Alabama quarterbacks because I haven't any Florida quarterbacks this year in a long time. I mean, think about it. I mean, the last one we had to cheer really was Kyle Trask, who's sitting on the bench, and who I wish wasn't sitting on the bench. I wish he would go to one of these teams that doesn't have a quarterback. But anyway, all right. The Movers, the Movers, and it is brought to you by our good friends at Oxstrong Moving Company. Oxstrong Moving Company. We love Oxstrong Moving Company. We've got movers that are going up, and we got movers that are going down. So moving on up, we will give the Royals, who've won the Royals have lost 4 straight. They're moving down. Boy, I screwed that up, didn't I? Who is moving down today? The Royals have lost 4 straight. They are now 6 games out of first place. That's pretty much done it for them. The Mets are moving on up, having won 3 in a row, and are now 2 games ahead of, as I mentioned, the Braves. I don't like it, but they are. And they're only 7 out. They're not going to catch the Phillies, okay? The Phillies, I think, can clinch tonight. But they could just put a boot heel on the Braves' chances of making the playoffs, and that will make me sad. Also, you know who's moving on up? The Minnesota Lynx. Yes, that is a WNBA. And yes, I'm going to continue to talk about WNBA. Now, when I say that, I'm only going to talk a little bit about it. I like to stick it in there because, look, I know that's what she said. I think that women's basketball is become this. It's a niche sport, but it's becoming a bigger, almost to the point of not being a niche sport. It's become so big because of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and everything. So yeah, I'm gonna throw it out there. Yeah. So the Lynx, they're in there. There you go. They're 2 games out of first place right now. By the way, their playoffs start Sunday. So those are the people who are moving on up and moving on down for our Oxstrong Moving segment. We appreciate Oxstrong Movers. Let us wrap it up with the Swamp games of the weekend. Boy, you got a lot to watch out there. I imagine you'll be out in the Swamp a few times this weekend watching some of these games and having some of the great food out there. Soccer is playing Kentucky. That game is on the plus. That is, they're pretty good too, Kentucky. Florida is playing, of course, the Florida football games at noon. You know that. It's on ESPN if you want to know. There's also games Friday night that are pretty good. Illinois at Nebraska. That's 2 ranked teams. And that game is at 8 o'clock on Fox on Friday night. Then your best Saturday games, Arkansas-Auburn is a 3:30 game on ESPN. That's certainly an interesting game. I don't know if it's a division, or no, there's no more divisions, a league-changing game. I don't think it's that. And then you have a really big game, which I don't know if you could call it under the radar game because it's a huge game, and that's Utah at Oklahoma State. That game is at 4 o'clock on Fox. So you got the 2 TVs you better have going. But that's, a huge game in the Big 12. I think Utah was picked a winner. I think Oklahoma State was picked second. I believe I'm correct on that. And then the night game, Tennessee, Oklahoma at 7:30 on ABC. That's the best night game going. I think volleyball also plays. I know I have this written down if I can read it. They play Friday and Sunday, I think. Don't quote me on that. I can't read this stupid writing. Can you read this down here? I don't know. Anyway, volleyball plays too. Oh, I know what it is. Volleyball's on the road. Volleyball's on the road Friday and Sunday. That's what it is. Just came to me. Okay. All right. That's going to do it for another podcast. I appreciate you guys. Sometimes I got too much stuff going on. It's so much fun, though. I love doing it. In fact, when I get up in the morning, I love the act of writing, scripting all this stuff out, and just by kind of. I love sitting there doing it. It's not work for me. It's fun. This is a little bit of work, but it's still fun. It's fun because I got a great producer in Zach Rothrock. He does a tremendous job, and he somehow makes me look presentable. Not good, but presentable. We'll be back with you again on Monday with Coach Spurrier. I know you can't wait for that. Hopefully, he's got something nice to say about the Gators, but it's up to them to do that, and up to him. We'll be back then. Until then, I am Pat Dooley. I am deep, I am way back, and I am out of here. Wow. That was. Should I keep